part of the universe, as the stars in the sky, as the leaves on the trees, as the wind and the water, and the myriad forms of life, and the light which guides my life through the days and the millions of days as the earth moves through the great cosmos. Human life and nature are intimately linked. This is the foundation on which the South Indian built his life and his home. Today, the age-old traditions of architecture and form and meaning are changing. With ever-increasing urbanization, who is to tell the stories that are contained in these walls? Dakshina Chitra began with a vision to bring to light the way of life that once was and still is prevalent in the interiors of South India. A way of life which is steadily fading away in the face of modern living. At Dakshina Chitra, 18th, 19th and early 20th century houses, built differently in the different regions, speak for the traditional worldview of the South Indian. Kerala, a land with a rich cultural tradition, is also rich in its tropical forests and abundant water. Keralites are mainly agriculturists and build their homes in the middle of their own fields. Kerala's rich trading history brought in its wake new religions. Christianity and Islam joined Hinduism. Keralites of all the three religions live in harmony with a common heritage of architectural form and symbolism. At Dakshina Chitra, the houses from Kerala reflect this artistic and religious heritage. Kerala houses are characterized by their sweeping tiled roofs, which protect the wooden walls from the copious monsoon rains, and by their carved gables, which provide air circulation. In every Keralite home, pride of place is given to the wooden granaries and coconut storage areas. Houses have a well just outside the kitchen, and often a large agricultural tank for bathing and watering the fields. In southern Kerala, the traditional houses are built completely out of wood and are single-storied. In North Kerala, laterite is used for building, and houses are often two-storied, like the one in Dakshina Chitra. Keralites traditionally wear white, a sari or a mundu. The simplicity and purity of their dress reflects the simplicity of their lifestyle and is very much in resonance with the richness of nature. Tamil Nadu has its own style of creative folk art, colorful, vivid and vivacious. The state is separated from Kerala by a mountain range, the Western Ghats. Much of the land here is semi-arid, except in the rich irrigated areas along the rivers. The scarcity of wood has encouraged mud and lime-based architecture. Tamils live in tight lines of houses clustered in narrow village streets, often sharing a common village well. Traditionally, a whole street was occupied by relatives. This entire village near Pudukkottai is a potter's village. Potters not only make terracotta household ware, but also idols of worship. The potter's house at Dakshina Chitra belongs to the more affluent craftsmen. Weaving fibre into baskets and mats is another common village craft. The basket weaver's house at Dakshina Chitra is thatched. Made from the resources still freely available in villages, the walls in this type of house are made of mud smeared with cow dung, a strong antiseptic, which also keeps the heat out. This is a common dwelling for many throughout Tamil Nadu. Silk and cotton weaving by handloom is a major local and export industry in Tamil Nadu. Weavers use the area around the courtyard in their own houses for the looms. Weaving is largely a family affair. On special occasions, the long warp is rolled up and the space used for dining, entertaining and rituals. The weaver's house at Dakshina Chitra has been brought from Kanchipuram, the South Indian centre for the rich silk saris coveted by Indian women. These huge houses found in the arid rural area of Chettinad belong to the merchant community of Tamil Nadu, the Chettiars. Merchants who travelled throughout Southeast Asia and built these homes, which are noted for their beautiful wood and stone carvings. Not many people live here now because of the exodus to cities. But come wedding season and the entire family gathers to celebrate the elaborate rituals in these courtyards. Tamil Brahmins, priests for the Shiva and Vishnu temples, as well as teachers, traditionally lived in rows of connected austere houses, occupying the area around the temple, as is seen in the cluster of their homes brought from the Tirunelveli district in Dakshina Chitra. Many of the Brahmin streets also remain empty, people having moved into the cities in search of work and educational opportunities. Agriculture, however, is the main occupation in the state. The Tanjavur area is one of the richest rice belts in the south. It is from here that the agricultural house has been brought to Dakshina Chitra. The universe to the South Indian is square, sacred at its center and vulnerable at the edges and corners. He saw his house as a microcosm of the universe, as an organic living space, subject to both good and bad energies. He believed that the walls and roof have the effect of projecting the pulsating cosmic forces into this space. To sanctify the space, the Vastu Puja is done, which is the breaking of the foundation before a house is built. The 9 bricks are symbolic of the 9 planets, whose influence, they believe, is very strong on their lives and which are being appeased through this prayer. At the doorway of the new house, a pumpkin, painted like a mask, is tied to ward off the evil eye. The outside veranda or tinnai is where the tired wayfarer can rest for a while, where the family members interact with friends and neighbors and with society at large. Doors have a special significance, marking the transition point between the public and private spaces of the house. In the Hindu house, the inner courtyard and the surrounding space, thought of as sacred and secure, is where the family gathers and commonly use the space. Only with the influence of westernization at the turn of the century, a separate room for guests began to be built, which became the equivalent of our modern living room. At Dakshina Chitra, only the Kerala Syrian Christian house reflects this innovation. There is a small room in most houses where grain and other food are stored. The kitchen is the center point of the house, sacred because it is where nature's gift of grains, vegetables and fruits are cooked. The puja room is an important space set aside inside every house for the daily prayer. The tulsi, the Indian balsam, is given a special place in the courtyard for its medicinal qualities. The lighting of a lamp at dawn begins the day in South Indian homes. The women then draw the auspicious columns in front of their homes, intricate traditional patterns which trace the movements of the sun, the moon, and the cardinal directions. The columns are drawn with rice powder, which is food for the insects. The doors are decorated with the red of kumkumam and the auspicious yellow of turmeric, an antiseptic to protect the wood from insects. Decoration is very much a part of the culture here. The women decorate their forehead with kumkumam. They string flowers together and decorate their hair with it. Their stove in the kitchen is cleaned and decorated with kolam before cooking for the day begins. Women perform the main cooking functions every day. Before eating, preparations are made for the daily puja. The ritual of the puja is to create a moment of stillness, a time to collect one's mind for the arduous tasks of the day, a moment of thanksgiving to the forefathers, the gods, and the divine forces of the universe. After this invocation to the day, the mid-morning meal is served on fresh, clean, disposable banana leaves. It is encircled by water 3 times before eating. The day's work now begins, agriculture being the primary occupation for most of the people. The agricultural produce is sold at the weekly markets, chandes, which are held at different places on each day of the week. The evening lamp is lit to mark the end of the day. All gather on the thinnate to relax and chat about worldly affairs. The tree is worshipped in the temple and the tulsi plant in the home. Nature is celebrated through its seasonal festivals. On the equinox of the sun, at the peak of summer in April, New Year is celebrated. The coming of the southwest monsoons marks the beginning of the agricultural season. The temple festivities now begin, a time to offer thanksgiving for the rains and to pray for a good crop. The culmination of the agricultural season on the winter solstice in January is a season of renewal, of the harvest festival. New rice is cooked and the rice pot is boiled over as the Purna Kumbha, the cornucopia. Families get together to invoke the sun and the universe to bless the house and the crops that nature has so bountifully given. South Indian families also get together at the all-important wedding ceremony. The weddings usually take place in the central courtyard of the house and are lavish affairs. The fresh beginnings are made auspicious with the homecoming, when the young couple first enters the sacred threshold of their new home. A new child in the home is a symbol of happiness and good tidings. Rituals mark the various stages of growth through childhood and adolescence. The child, under the keen care and guidance of the elders, is then carefully groomed to face society and the world, and to take up his or her specific role in the scheme of things. In the eve of a long and happy life, in the presence of one's children and grandchildren, the marriage vows are renewed to celebrate the fullness of life. It is time now to tune in to the subtler tones of the universe. A time to prepare for new beginnings, for a fresh turn of the circle of life, to start all over again and again and again.